Hello guys, in this video we want to do a Python script that is going to web scrape LinkedIn. We want to, for example, search a key term here. So we want the script to actually search a key term, Python, web, whatever we want it to display, to show. And it's going to, we're going to use Selenium and Beautiful Soup in order to automate the web browser, and this is Beautiful Soup in order to extract the data. So we want to be able to filter, go to content, sort it by latest, and scroll and maybe grab the 50 latest posts and extract this information into a web application. So this might be a few part series, so I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's begin. So we're going to be using Jupyter Lab to write our Python script, which will tie in perfectly with our web application using Anvil.works. So I'm going to be using some code that I usually use. So I'll just paste that in here to speed up. So we're going to be using Selenium, Beautiful Soup. We're going to import time so that we could possibly pause the browser or the automation and give it time to load web elements. And of course, if you're going to be using Selenium, you need to use the the Selenium Chrome driver for activating Google Chrome. So we'll run this, and this is going to open up a new Chrome window that we're going to tell it to navigate. So if I go back to my Google, we're going to tell it to navigate to this URL. When we did the steps of entering the keyword and clicking on content, LinkedIn creates a URL that has those search criteria. So we have here content, you'll see it there, the word content, and we have it sorted by date and the keyword Python. So we're going to use this URL and just modify it a bit. So we'll say URL equals, it's going to be a little bit long. Let me actually zoom in a little bit. Our URL is going to equal this, and I'll just break it out so that you guys can. URL equals URL plus this, and keywords equals, we'll break it here so that we could URL equals, because it's a long URL plus, and here's where we want to search our keyword term. So we'll type in keyword, actually keyword for our variable keyword, and put the rest in quotations so that we finish our so that's going to give us actually we won't print it out. That's going to give us the URL that we're going to scrape, and we'll test it now. So keyword will equal the keyword, the search term that we want. So in this case we're going to say Python, maybe web app, and if we say driver dot get URL and run the script hitting shift enter, nothing happened. So what's going on? Something is not right in our URL. Let's print the URL so that we can see it. Okay, so there is the break in our, so we have equal keywords, oh okay, so for now we'll just keep it more simple and take it here. That and Okay, let's take the URL once more time. Something is not right with our URL, so let's just results. That's going to equals our URL and keyword URL plus keyword plus okay, so when we ran the code, it's opening, if you can see here, it actually navigates and is trying to pass the URL, but it's going to tell us to log in. So we'll manually log in. We're going to keep this web page open for our web application to always activate it. So we will manually log in occasionally. We will not write that in the script. Also, it maybe gets LinkedIn a little bit more sense that it actually a person that is using the web page instead of an automation. So let's run it again and see that let's type in web, so yes, we can see that it is actually filling in the keyword here and it's sorting it by latest for our content. So it's working. So far it's working great. Now we want to be able to web scrape this data, and we also have to take care of this auto scrolling, but we will do that in a later video. So this is where we're going to be using Beautiful Soup. Beautiful Soup is a great way to look at all the elements that consist of the data of the web page. So we are going to say source equals driver dot page source, and then we're going to say our soup equals Beautiful Soup source, and we'll enter LXML. This is in their documentation, so we'll print this and we want to make sure that we are getting data. So here we are getting data, and we can make this prettify is a Beautiful Soup method. We'll say print, and now we have all the data that we want. Beautiful. Obviously, there's a lot of metadata that we would not need, but the data that we want is somewhere in here. Here we are. We're getting some of the information, comments, but we will inspect the page more and drill down a little bit deeper so that we could get the content that we want. So now if we go back to our website, our LinkedIn, we're going to inspect elements, right click, inspect. We're going to select an element from the page so that we could see its elements, and we see it that all the posts come from a object called voyeur feed by ID. So that should be quite simple. So we're going to copy this ID and we're going to say our contents equals soup dot find, which is a beautiful soup method, and we're going to say div for the tag, open brackets ID, and we're going to paste in our ID called voyeur feed. And let's print contents out and see. Okay, so now we're getting a lot less data, but it should give us, within this, we will be writing a loop that then gets us. So there we have the first post by channel, how many followers they have, how long ago they posted, and the actual content of the post somewhere here. Break words, right here. Okay, so let's run a loop and get all of the contents, or the specific contents that we want. And in order to do that, we will run a loop, and if we take a look at the items within we see that all the items, all the posts, if we scroll down and see the posts, each post is under a list, so we want to extract all of this data for our feed. So we'll use the tag li. Now that we have found this ID, we'll say loop through all the elements and find all the li data, and then extract data from those li tags. So let's write a loop. For C in contents. Actually, we'll say content equals, we'll say contents, and then say find all, which will look for all. The find and find all are methods within Beautiful Soup. Find all will list all the elements. Find will just find one of the elements, the first one. We will want to find from content, we want to find all elements that have li, and we'll loop through all those elements in the content and extract specific data that we want. And each data is going to be, we'll print c.find, c.find, and here we want to find individual items, for example the name of the person, which falls under this tag span and this attribute dir LTR. So we'll take this, we'll just write it here, span, comma, similar to what we did in the top. We'll copy this, paste that there, and we'll just change this to dir and LTR, and let's see if that gives us the name of the person. We put semicolon, and there we go. Now we have we're extracting data, all the names of the people that I have posted, and we will just go and list out all the other elements that we need. But we also want to strip out these elements. We don't want that, so we'll just say text, and then we'll say strip to just remove any space. So there we go. Now we have all the names of the posts. So that gives us that. We'll copy that a few times for the post itself. We'll inspect the element here. Which one gives us the post itself? Could be this one. And this one is a class. And a div. Let's see. Now we might be getting some errors. So we might want to just say try accept and pass, and now we're getting data that we want. See more, but let's take a look if actually let's look at this feed data, and this is actually the one that we want. So we actually want to get this plan break words. Let's switch this to break words. It's a span, and now we're getting a little less data. We don't want all those. See more. I just want to put a little break so that we could actually see different elements, different breaks in the elements. So now we have the name and the actual post itself. Name, oh, we're repeating the name in the bottom. We actually want to get the and let's cut this and replace this one with the let's see if we see one that has the actual title. Alright, so we want this actual title here, which is copy this and paste that in here, and that's a class from span. Okay, so now we're getting, yeah, we just want to put a little break here as well. All right, so now we're getting the name, the title, and, or if a company is, it will show the followers and the actual post. We'll see that Roger, director, read the articles. So now we're getting data with Beautiful Soup. Now what we want to do now is actually print this information into a dictionary so that then we can pass this data back to our web application. Also, we are going to have our web application the ability to click the like button. So we also need to retrieve this like button, which has a member or Ember ID. So we need to retrieve that Ember ID. And we're going to get that with this reaction button. So let's pull that as well over here. Paste that. Let's see if we get that. So that's the class span, and this one is not an actual text. This will be attributes. So in Beautiful Soup, we can also retrieve the specific attribute names. So this one is going to be attribute ID, and hopefully that gives us that. So we can actually retrieve these specific names, the class name. In this case, we need this Ember ID in order for us to talk back from our web application and say, please click like when we select the specific Ember ID. All right, so let's print this information, and we are almost. Did it come through? Okay, I'm not seeing it. Let's take a look, make sure that we have it copied correctly. Oh, we forgot it. Little s here, attributes, and now we have that Ember ID, which we're going to need. Okay, now that we have all this information, we could actually comment this out, or we could just replace this. We're going to be passing this information into a dictionary. So we will create a mylist list and a data list that we will feed in a dictionary. So we are going to say maybe I'll just copy all of this and enter it in a new cell, clear this output, and just rename this name equals C company equals this. Expand this a little bit. The post content, the post equals this, and the post ID equals goes this. Okay. Now that we have that, we will say mylist equals, open parentheses, open brackets, we will say name equals name, company would be company, post say that's a post, and the post ID equal post ID. All right, let's run this and let's see what we got. remove this parentheses, and now our data should be populated. So if we print out data is blank. Oh, we haven't appended to our data. So we want to say data dot append my list, and now we'll run it and we'll pass it here. So now we're getting a dictionary where it has all the names, all the posts in a dictionary format, so that we could pass that information to our web application. So we could say, we could run a root for row in data print row name, and I'm gonna retrieve it if I have that. And now we have only the names and so forth. We could type in company and pass in that information. All right, great. So now that we have that, now we want to combine our application to Anvil. Anvil, if you've seen my other videos, Anvil is a great way for making simple and complicated web application only coded in Python. So if you're beginning in Python, it's a great way for you to publish your scripts, ideas, link them within a web application interface, and share it out to anyone that you want. So it's a cool way of sharing your scripts to the world. So let's do that. Let's go to Anvil. I'll minimize this here. I think I have Anvil here, and I'll close this. I'm going to create a new application. Remember, we already have data, so we're going to, here is our new application. We'll call it link in YouTube English. All right, and here we'll start adding elements, and we want to display our data. Okay, so we'll enter a card. Here we'll enter a repeating panel. Here our main content. Right, main content. And within here, we're not going to link it to any table for now. We're going to drop in another card, and we'll start adding elements. So we're going to, we have how many elements so far? 1, 2, 3. 3 main elements. The post ID, I will not, we'll see. Actually, we have 4. But for now, we'll just paste 3. So we have the label, the name, the company, and the post. So 3 labels. We'll label them so that we know what we're referring to. And when we pass back the dictionary, we're going to link these labels to the specific key of the dictionary. So we'll add a data binding here, and this one's going to be name for the name. Remember, we labeled it name, company, and this is going to be company, and this is going to tell application grab the data from that dictionary. And the last one is the actual post, and post, and we'll add the member ID, right? We'll put it here, and we'll add a button because we remember we want to be able to like the post. Like, and maybe we'll make it where is my, that's fine. We'll icon here. Okay, so we'll like the post and hopefully that worked. That will be a cool little feature. We have here label for the post ID. Post ID. Okay, so now that we have our application, we can run this, and we don't have any labels now, so it will not look as nice yet. But yeah, you won't be able to see anything because we don't have anything loaded. But so far everything seems to be in order. Now we will go back and okay, so now we will, before we go back to the Jupyter Notebook, we will activate the Uplink service within Anvil.works. This is going to allow us to connect our app to existing code, which is our Jupyter Notebook code. And it tells you here how to do it. You must first pip install Anvil Uplink. Sorry, I already have it installed, and it's going to generate a key once we enable it. So we're going to click enable. It's going to generate a key, and it's going to provide us an example of a code. We'll grab this, copy this, and we will go back to Jupyter Notebook, and we'll insert that here, and we'll actually copy this or cut it, and let's insert another cell. We'll run it here. Let's run the import and the server so we can see it connect. There it is, connecting to our app, so we are connected. And now all we need to do is create a function, which we have an example here. Make sure that it's decorated with the at anvil.server.callable so that we can call it. And we are going to say Webscrape. And for now, we're not passing any parameters, but ideally we will want to pass in the keyword, so that's where we will enter it, and we will return data, which is our dictionary. So we'll pass data back to our app. So that's quite simple. That's all we want. Eventually we'll put all of the code that we have written in the top, we'll put it in here, but for now we'll just pass the data. I want to make sure that we are getting data back to our Anvil app. So we'll go back to an Anvil app now, and remember this is a repeating panel and we have all our data bindings, and now we just need to make sure that the code itself populates it. So ideally it's going to be triggered from a button, but for now we'll put it on the initialize. So we're going to say self dot repeating panel. Oops, that's not it. Repeating panel main content dot items equal, and this is going to call our Jupyter code script dot server dot call, and we need to make sure we set Webscrape. So that's going to call that and populate that. Let's see what happens if we run. And there we go. There we go. So we have data coming back from this is data that we ran through our Jupyter Notebook right now. So it's still, because of the session that is open, data, we ran the script, and now we're pasting back information. So each block, each repeating panel is a post, and this is the content of the post. Some of them are going to be useful, some of it is not going to be useful. It's up to you to determine whether it's useful or not. Like, do we have so we want to see, remember we also passed the Ember ID for the like, so we want to be able to click this like button and go back and actually like the LinkedIn post. So let's see if we could figure that and wire that together. So it seems like everything is working as we wanted it. Now that I'm looking at it for the first time, not sure how useful it would be, just because of how everything sometimes there's so much spam. This is the director. Read the article. May you be showered. Like there's so many posts. I might wanna get rid of anything that has followers, because that tells me, oh, so that actually is a good thing. So anything that has followers means it's a company. I don't really want to look at companies. Anything that has followers, I don't want to look at. Just finish your code. This is something interesting. So I want to like this person. This is a normal person. Posting for a friend. Apply today. So there might be keywords here that I want to exclude, and eventually it would be nice to figure out how to determine only English posts. Like this one, I am not useful for me. This one, even though I do understand this is Spanish, but again, would be good. Anyways, so let's wire this like button. Let's go back. So everything seems to be working perfectly like we wanted. So we'll create a new function that's going to grab. It's going to take, and we'll paste it right in here, and we're gonna say like post, and here we are going to use Selenium to actually mimic the like of the element. So we're going to say driver dot find element by ID, and remember the ID is the post ID, and then we're just going to click. So we need to have this post ID here. We need to pass back the post ID, and I believe we have the post ID. So right now, if I go to my repeating panel and I double click here, I'm just going to print the ID. So print this ID. Do I have the ID? I know it's in the data. Post ID equals self dot item. Let's see if this gives us post ID. And we want to print it out. For now, just let's print it out. Let's see if we actually have something. So we're going to just run this again. It's going to populate data, and here we have the post IDs that we've generated from the dictionary. So that's working perfectly fine. So now we just have to say pass that back. Perfect. So we just need to pass that back to our Jupyter notebook. So that should be easy. So let's move this over here so that once we run it, we can actually see it in action. All right, so let's stop this. So now that we have our post ID, we're going to say anvil.server.call, and we're going to say like post, and we're going to pass the post ID. I believe that's how we labeled it, right? Like post. And we need to run this. I think I did, but let's do it again. And now let's run our code again. We have the first one here. We said we wanted to like director read, may you be showered. Just finish this quote. So let's look for this post so that we can see it. Not sure how you pronounce that name, but here's that person, and we're going to click like here, and immediately you see that on my right on the actual LinkedIn I am liking it. So I could just unselect like and like. How cool is that? We created a web application that scrapes data from LinkedIn, stores the information in a dictionary, and then we can use this from any mobile device and then on top of that we can actually like the comments, like the posts themselves. We can also eventually also create a reply, so we can actually reply back to people here, or have standard default replies. But that's neat. Let's keep on. Let's take a look if we could like something else. So if I'm looking, contract event, promotion of a line, assistant web developer. Okay, I didn't see anything else that I wanna like. Posting for a friend. Yeah, I don't see anything. This is why I want to kind of remove some things. Actually, let's load a little bit more and run it and see. So we also want to take care of this loading, and I gotta find the code. But again, what are we searching? Web. Oh, well, not that we ran it, but it's not ran, so we have to make sure that we run it specifically for my Python code, because otherwise we will not get the specific codes that we need. So we run it here. We are searching for Python. We know everything changes, and we will need to run all these scripts, which we don't want to print right now. Okay, and then we will run this so that we populate our data, and we run this again. So now we will have different data in our application. If I go back to my application, right now I don't have any refresh, but if I stop it and rerun it, I should have new information. So I have new data. Here's a free cheat sheet of Python. Oh, that's nice. I like that. Let's like it. Okay, how cool is that? I'm glad to share that I've completed. Yes, I will like that. Who's that? Let's take a look. And how cool is that? So we're interacting with LinkedIn through our web application. Okay, so I believe, if not mistaken, might want to just design it a little bit better, but for now, the last thing that we would actually need to do, and except for maybe add a few labels here so that we actually could stylize this a little bit better, but I think we've done most of everything that we wanted to accomplish, which is build a script using Python, Selenium, and Beautiful Soup to extract the data, and we figured out how to do it here. Pass that information to a dictionary, pass it to our web application, connect Anvil, which is the web application, for free, connect it, and then write two scripts, one for passing the data and one for returning. Actually, we want to be able to trigger the keyword search, so we want to actually do that here, and we want to also search the data and run the whole entire script from here. So that will be the final video. We will enter the code in here, and we'll be done. So again, if I publish this app or share it out as a link, anybody that has access to the link will be able to view it, and immediately when they run, so we want to maybe have a button saying enter a keyword, type and hit enter, and then it populates the information that you want. Also, we need to adjust this scrolling. So those three things are going to be left in our next video. So I hope you guys enjoy. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video, and thank you for watching.